Today we're going to do lesson 7.4, which is factoring ax² plus bx plus c. So this lesson is very similar to the last one, except this time we have a coefficient of our x² term. So our objective today is to factor quadratic trinomials of the form ax² plus bx plus c. So why learn this? The height of a football that has been kicked can be modeled by a factored polynomial. You have already factored trinomials of the form x² plus bx plus c, and we did that in lesson 7.3. So now we're going to factor ax², so our x² term will have a coefficient, plus bx plus c, where a does not equal 0 or 1 in this case. So when you multiply 3x plus 2 and 2x plus 5, the 3x and the 2x will multiply together to give us an x squared, 6x². So we're going to have a coefficient for the x² term. And then the constant term in the trinomial is the products of the constants in the binomials. So here 3x² times 3x times 2x will give us 6x². 2 times 2x will give us 4x, and then 3x times 5 will give us 15x. So when we add the 4x plus 15x, we get the 19x, and then 2 times 5 gives us 10. So to factor a trinomial, we are going to write two sets of parentheses like we did before, and we have to figure out the coefficients for our x values and then the constants at the end of the binomials. So that is what we are going to be looking at today. In example 1, we have a guess and check method that we're going to use. So we're going to factor 4x² plus 16x plus 15. So we want to see what coefficients of the x in both binomials and the constants will get us the 4 and then the 15. And then when you add the middle terms together, the outer and the inner, you should get 16. So let's try. So we're going to set up our parentheses. So you're going to have a number, a coefficient, and then x plus some number. So I'm going to set up my second set of parentheses as well. So here, my coefficient for my x terms need to multiply together to give me 4. So you want to think of factors of 4. So 4 could be 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. I'm going to start with 1 and 4. So 1x and 4x. 1x times 4x is 4x². Now my second two numbers here have to multiply together to give me 15. So 15, you could do 1 and 15, 3 and 5. And then the order is going to matter here because you're going to multiply this number with the inner and then 1x with the outer. And when you multiply those together, the sums need to give us 16x. So let's try, say, 1 and 15. Okay, and we want to see if when I multiply my outer and my inner, I get 16x, because we already know the first terms will multiply to 4x², and the last terms will give us 15. So here, 1x times 15 gives me 15, and then 1 times 4x gives me 4. So here, I actually get the trinomial 4x², and then the 4x plus 15x would give me 19x, and then plus 15, which is not what I want. Okay, so since that's not what I want to try something else. Okay, so you can continue doing 1 and 4x if you want. You could also, remember, do 2 and 2. So let's try 1x again and 4x. And with the 15, I could also use 3 and 5. So let's use 5 and 3 here. So 1x times 4x will give me my 4x². And then outer, I'm going to get 1x times 3, which is 3x. Inner, 20x. So that's going to give me 23x. And then 5 times 3 will give me 15. I want 16x. I have 23. So that didn't work. Okay, so I could also, remember, do 2 and 2 for my x. So let's try 2x plus, and then we'll pick something, 2x plus. So we could do 1 and 15 again if we want it. So let's do 1 and 15. So 2x times 2x will give me 4x², and then the 2x times 15 is 30 plus 2x. So that will give me 32x, and then I have plus 15. Again, not what I want, okay? So let's try 2x again, but let's try 3 and 5 this time. So 2x times 2x will give me 4x squared, and then 2x times 5 is 10x, and then in the middle I'll get 6x. So 10 plus 6x will give me 16x, and then 3 times 5 gives me 15. And that is exactly what I wanted. So to factor this trinomial, I would do 2x plus 3 times the quantity 2x plus 5. And again, like I mentioned in the last video, you could write the 2x plus 5 first if you want it, and then the 2x plus 3. So those both would give you the solution. So this is just guess and check. You might have to guess a bunch more times till you get the answer. Guess and check won't get you the answer the easiest way, but it is one method that you could use to get your trinomial factored. So now there are 2 check it out problems for you to do. So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, try these 2 on your own, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. So for A, I have 6x squared plus 11x plus 3. So the factored form is 3x plus 1 times the quantity 2x plus 3. Second one, B, 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. The factored form is 3x plus 4 times the quantity x minus 2. So again, you can flip-flop these if you want. Means the same thing in our solution. So now we're going to go ahead and look at example 2. We're going to look at a more formulated method to help us factor instead of guess and check. So to factor ax squared plus bx plus c, check the factors of a and the factors of c in the binomials. The sum of the products of the outer and inner terms should be b. So since you need to check all the factors of A and all the factors of C, it may be helpful to make a table. Then check the products of the outer and inner terms to see if the sum is B. You can multiply the binomials to check your answers. So we need to look at the factors of 2. We're going to list those out. And then we also need to look at the factors of 12. Then we will take the outer and add the inner to see if we get 11. Okay, our goal here is to get 11. We want that to equal 11. So factors of 2, okay, we could say 1 and 2. And then let's pair that with, say, 1 and 12. So then for our outer, we would do 1 times 12, which will give us 12, plus our inner 2 times 1, which gives us 2. 12 plus 2 gives us 14. We want 11, so that didn't work. So we're going to try another factor. You're going to keep on doing 1 and 2, but you'll change your factors of 12 here just to keep it organized. So let's do 1 and 2 again, but let's reverse the 1 and 12. Maybe it's the other way. So let's do 12 and 1. So outer, 1 times 1 is 1, and then inner 2 times 12 is 24. And 1 plus 24 gives us 25. Now, if you can see in your head that the number is going to be way too big for what we want, our goal, you can skip that one, okay? It's a process of elimination. You're going to figure out a method that's easiest for you the more times you practice this. So again, we're going to do 1 and 2 as our factors of 2. And we kind of tried all the combinations for 1 and 12, 12 and 1. So let's move on to another factor of 12. So let's try 2 and 6. So 1 times 6 will give me 6, and then 2 times 2 is 4. 6 plus 4 is 10. Okay, very close, but not 11. Okay, so let's reverse the 6 and the 2. So we'll have 1 and 2. Let's do 6 and 2 this time. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 6 is 12. And then 2 plus 12 will give us 14. Again, doesn't work. So we're going to do 1 and 2. So we already did 2 and 6, both combinations. So let's move on to the next one, which would be 3 and 4. 1 times 4 gives me 4, 2 times 3 gives me 6, and 4 plus 6 gives me 10. Not quite. So let's try the reverse order. So let's do 4 and 3. 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 4 is 8, and then 3 plus 8 will give us 11. So that worked. So now we have to write out our factored form here. So we're going to have our 2 sets of parentheses, and everything's positive, so we'll have addition. We have our x. So our coefficients, our factors of 2, go with our x term. So this is going to be 1x and 2x, and then the 4 goes with the first set of parentheses, 3 goes with the second. So our factored form is 1x plus 4 times the quantity 2x plus 3. And this 1 here, you don't have to write the coefficient there, because again, when we don't have a coefficient, we assume that it is 1. So now we're going to go ahead and look at part B. Okay, we have 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. So we're going to start with factors of 5, and then factors of 8, and then we're going to have our outer plus our inner. And our outer plus our inner, we want to be negative 14 this time. Now, remember, in the last lesson, we talked about when we have a positive C term and a negative B term, that means our factors for this 8 are going to have to be both negative. So we have to keep that in mind here. So factors of 5, we're only going to have 1 and 5. And let's start with negative 1 and negative 8. So outer 1 times negative 8 will be negative 8, plus inner 5 times negative 1, negative 5. And that's going to give us negative 13. Didn't work. So let's reverse our factors of 8 this time, and let's do negative 8 and negative 1. 1 times negative 1, negative 1. 5 times negative 8 will give us negative 40, and our sum, negative 41. Way too big. We want negative 14. So we're going to do 1 and 5 again. Let's try negative 2 and negative 4. So negative 2 and negative 4 give us 8. So outer 1 times negative 4, negative 4. 5 times negative 2 will give us negative 10. And our sum will be negative 14. And that's exactly what we wanted. So now we have to write our factored form. So we're going to have 1x and 5x, and then we'll have minus 2 and minus 4. So that is our factored form for part B. There are 3 examples down here for you to try. So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. So for A, our factored form is going to be 2x plus 5 times the quantity 3x plus 1. B, our factored form is going to be 3x minus 4 times 3x minus 1. And then for C, we'll have 3x plus 4 times the quantity x plus 3. So now we're going to go ahead and look at example 3. For example 3, we are going to have the C term negative. So when C is negative, one factor of C will be positive, the other will be negative. So only some factors are shown in the examples, but you may need to check all the possibilities. So if you look in your book, you'll see you only test some of them. And we're going to do the same. We're not going to test every single one. You'll kind of see a pattern and be able to see what direction you want to go with guess and check with your factors. So for A, we have 4y squared plus 7y minus 2. So we're going to have factors of 4. And then our C term is negative 2. So we're going to have factors of negative 2. And then we want our outer plus our inner. In this case, our outer plus our inner is going to have to equal 7. So starting with factors of 4, let's do 1 and 4. And then for negative 2, we can do 1 and negative 2. Outer 1 times negative 2, plus 4 times 1, 4, and that's going to give us a positive 2. Doesn't work. So let's reverse that order. So let's do 1 and 4, and then we'll have negative 2 and 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times negative 2, negative 8. When I add that together, I get negative 7. I want a positive 7. So give me 1 second. Yes, so I want a positive 7, so that did not work. So then you can also switch where the negative is. So I could do 1 and 4 again, but I could do negative 1 and positive 2, because negative 1 times 2 gives me negative 2 still. So let's do our outer. 1 times 2 is 2, plus our inner, 4 times negative 1, negative 4. And when I add that together, I get negative 2. Doesn't work. Okay, so let's switch that order. So 1 and 4. So let's try 2 and negative 1. 1 times negative 1, negative 1. And then 4 times 2 is 8. And when I add that together, I get a positive 7. So that's exactly what I want. So let's set up our parentheses. So I'm going to have 1y and 4y plus 2 minus 1. So that will be the factored form of your trinomial. Part B, we have 4x squared plus 19x minus 5. So I want factors of 4 and then factors of negative 5. And then our outer plus inner, we want the sum to be 19. So factors of 4, we can start with 1 and 4. And then for negative 5, we could do 1 and negative 5. 1 times negative 5, and then 4 times 1 is 4. And when I add that together, I get negative 1. No good. So let's reverse that order. So 1 and 4, negative 5 and 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times negative 5, negative 20. And that gives us negative 19. No good. So let's go ahead and switch where the negative is. So we're going to do 1 and 4. So let's have the negative go with the 1 this time. Let's do a positive 5 and a negative 1. So 1 times negative 1, and then 4 times 5 is 20. And then negative 1 plus 20 gives me a positive 19. Exactly what I want. So I'm going to set up my parentheses. So I'm going to have 1x and then 4x plus 5 and minus 1. So that would be my factored form. And you should notice that if you get the opposite of what you want, like this is negative 19, but I want positive, you just got to switch the signs. Okay? Same thing for this one up here. I want it positive 7, but I got negative 7 here, and we just switched the sign to the 1. So we have part C to look at as well. So we have 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. So we're going to look at factors of 2 and factors of negative 15. And then we want our outer plus inner to be negative 7. Okay, so starting with factors of 2, we have 1 and 2. And then for negative 15, you have lots of options. You could do 1 and negative 15. You can do 3 and negative 5. And then reverse your signs to try and get close to negative 7. You want to get exactly negative 7. So let's start with 1 and negative 15. So outer would be negative 15, inner 2. and that's going to give me negative 13. No good. So let's do 1 and 2. Let's switch the order, so negative 15 and 1. So 1 and 1 will give me 1 plus negative 30 gives me negative 29. No good. Okay, so I'm going to skip around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and try, say, 3 and negative 5. Outer would be negative 5, inner 6. And that's going to give me a positive 1, which is no good. So let's go ahead and switch that order. So let's do 1 and 2, but try negative 5 and a positive 3. Outer 1 and 3 is 3, inner negative 10. And that's going to give me negative 7, which is what I want. Okay, so you might have to do a couple more combinations than I did to get your answer, and that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my parentheses. So we're going to have 1x, and then 2x, minus 5, and then plus 3. So x minus 5 times the quantity 2x plus 3. There are 2 check it out problems at the bottom for you to do. So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. So for A, we have 6x squared plus 7x minus 3. And this is going to factor to 3x minus 1 times the quantity 2x plus 3. And then for B, we have 4n squared minus n minus 3. And that factors to 4n plus 3 times the quantity n minus 1. So now we're going to go ahead and look at example 4. There is a student-to-student note in your book, and I recommend that you read over that because that might be a helpful hint for you. So for example 4, our leading coefficient this time is going to be negative. When our leading coefficient is negative, our A is negative, we're going to factor out negative 1 and then factor. Okay? So whenever A is negative, you have to factor out a negative 1. So negative 2x squared minus 15x minus 7. So I'm factoring out a negative 1, so that means I'm going to take the opposite sign of everything inside. So negative 1 times 2x squared will give me the negative 2x squared. So you're just taking the opposite sign here. So when you distribute that negative 1, you get what we started with. So then it's going to be plus 15x plus 7. And then from here, you're going to factor like you normally would. You want to look at your factors of 2, factors of 7, and then see which combination outer and inner, outer plus inner will give me the 15x. So negative 1, and then I'd have my 2 sets of parentheses. The negative 1 doesn't disappear. So when I factor this, I'm going to get x plus 7 times the quantity 2x plus 1. And again, you can reverse these 2 sets of parentheses. You could have the 2x plus 1 come first, and then the x plus 7 come second. But that negative 1 is still going to stay there with your answer. So there are 2 check it out problems for you to do. So go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. Remember, you need to factor out that negative 1 first, since the leading coefficient is negative. So for A, I'm going to factor out the negative 1 first. So I'm going to have negative 1, and then in parentheses, 6x squared plus 17x plus 12. And then I factor this trinomial inside, and I'm going to get 2x plus 3 times the quantity 3x plus 4. For B, I'm going to factor out the negative 1 as well. So I'm going to have 3x squared plus 17x plus 10. And now I just need to factor the trinomial inside the parentheses. So I'm going to get 3x plus 2 times the quantity x plus 5. So negative 1 times the quantity 3x plus 2 times the quantity x plus 5 is the solution.